In this IELTS speaking task 2 cue card lesson, we're going to be looking at 2 cue cards for the very common topic of books. So let's take a look at our first cue card example. Describe a book that had a major influence on you. You should say, who wrote the book? How did you hear about this book? What the main topic is? And explain why it had such a big impact on you. So, a book that has influenced you, that has changed your way of thinking. Let's take a look at the model answer. To be honest, it wasn't a very difficult decision to make when thinking about my most cherished book. Also, it would be fair to say this book has had a major impact in who I am today. So yes, it's a pretty important piece of literature to me. It's a little known travel guide for Southern Europe by a lady called Isabel Swan. I bet you haven't heard of her. This memory really takes me back to when I was around 11 years old. I found this guidebook upstairs in my parents' loft. I remember seeing it all dusty, sort of sat in the back of the room. But honestly, the cover and illustrations inside are truly amazing. As well as writing the book, Isabel also drew all the pictures too. So basically, it gives a pretty rough idea of great places to visit around Southern Europe, like Greece and Spain, but the illustrations are really vibrant and full of life. After finding it hidden upstairs, I took it to my room and really read it often, up into my mid-teens. When I finished university, I couldn't wait to finally begin travelling by myself. Without a doubt, this book inspired me to travel and seek out new cultures and experiences. In actual fact, I luckily was able to visit a few places from Isabel's guidebook. They were even more brilliant in real life. So yes, this travel guidebook has really shaped the person I am today. So we have a really detailed, possibly almost too long answer for our task 2 cue card. And of course, I'm not showing you the plan that goes with it. We're just looking at the model answer. So let's take a look at some of the key language discussing a book that has inspired us. So up first, we have the opening phrase, to be honest. A great way to begin our speaking. I've seen some teachers talk about beginning their part 2 speaking with, thank you for giving me the opportunity, I'd like to speak about. I find that quite unnatural, so I prefer to use conversation openers like this. To be honest, I'm really excited because, in actual fact, these kind of openers are better, I think. It shows a bit more of a natural ability in your language. My most cherished. So if there is something important to you, you can use this phrase. My most cherished book, my most cherished memory. That is often used together. And next we have this major impact on who I am today. So instead of saying that has influenced me, we can use this phrase instead. So I could say my parents have influenced me, or I could also say my parents have had a major impact on who I am today. Here we have little known, a common collocation. So if something isn't well understood or known about, you can say little known. So a little known music group, travel guide, book, place to visit, little known. Here we have takes me back. So when you're talking about a memory from a long time before, you can use this phrase, takes me back. So I can say, this memory takes me back to last summer or a time in my childhood. Parents' loft. So just a bit of vocabulary focus. A loft is an attic. I think this is a very British piece of language here. Truly amazing, just some exciting emotive language. So the examiner, using phrases like this, the examiner can see that you are confident and able to express your ideas, and I'm sure this will help with your marks for lexical resource. Here's another common collocation. Basically, it gives us a pretty rough idea, a general understanding. So I have a rough idea about where I need to go, a rough idea about the IELTS test. You don't have a complete understanding, you have maybe 60-70%, a rough idea. Mid-teens, so this is a phrase used to describe pretty much from maybe 13 to sort of 16, mid-teens. I was itching to finally begin traveling. So an idiomatic expression, because we're not actually itching, but when we are really excited about something, we can say, I was itching to visit or go or play. I was itching to see the movie. A really nice idiomatic expression. We've got a great opener here, without a doubt. And finally, shaped the person I am today. So again, talking about influences, you can say this book, this person, this film, this experience really shaped the person I am today. It made me me. So there's some really good language for discussing influences and books. Let's take a look at the next cue card. And here is our second cue card. Describe a book you read recently. You should say what the book is, when you read it, how did you hear about it, and explain if you enjoyed it. So quite similar to the first cue card, but instead of talking about the influence of the book, we're quite simply talking about a book we have read recently. It can be one you liked, it could be one that you disliked. Let's take a look at the model answer. Well, it would be fair to say I'm not really much of a bookworm, but I did read a book a few months back. I mean, it was a graphic novel, but it's still a book, right? Maybe it's time I started to read some thicker texts. Anyway, I loved reading this graphic novel. It's by a really famous author called Neil Gaiman. I think he's from America, or wait, maybe in fact he's British. Either way, the book is called Sandman, and I've got to say, it's a pretty odd book to say the least. In a nutshell, it's about these godlike characters. It's like a fantasy book, really, although it's very dark. When I first started reading it, I really couldn't put it down. I think I stayed up into the morning and just kept reading. You could say it's a real page-turner. For the next few weeks, I was working my way through the series and often had it for some bedtime reading. I'm not sure it was good reading for my dreams, though. I heard about it from a close friend. He isn't really a big reader either, but Sandman came highly recommended from him. So I thought, why not give it a go? It's a real shame, but since finishing it, I haven't picked up another book. I've been very busy with my studies, so maybe when I'm finished, I can find another book to flick through. So here's an example of a Task 2 model answer for a book we have read recently. And in this example, it's not even a real chapter or thick text book. It's just like a comic, a graphic novel. So really, as long as it's quite on point, on task, you can really talk about a range of different things. Let's take a look at the focused language in this model answer. And highlighted in blue is our focused language, beginning with fair to say. So this is really an expression, almost like a linking phrase. It would be fair to say, which is almost like saying in all honesty. Or it's it's close to saying in all honesty. It would be fair to say, I'm not really that into reading. So it's kind of like using in all honesty. Well, in all honesty, I'm not really much of a bookworm. Well, it would be fair to say. So a very native sounding expression. Here we have the phrase bookworm, which is an idiomatic expression. It's actually a metaphor. So if we say someone is a bookworm, it means that they read a lot. Obviously, they're not actually a bookworm. But if you say, like in this example, I'm not really much of a bookworm, it means this person doesn't read often. Here we have a graphic novel, which is generally a lot less text, but big illustrations throughout the book. And they can be, for a range of books, it's not just comics for Batman and that kinds of thing. We can even have graphic novels for Shakespeare. Next up, we have this expression, pretty surreal. And surreal really is a synonym for strange or weird. Pretty surreal. So if something is a bit odd, you can use this expression. In a nutshell, so an opening phrase for this sentence, which is an idiomatic expression. We are not in a nutshell, but it basically means to summarize something quickly, to describe something quickly without too much detail, which this person is doing here for the plot. So giving an idea what this book is about. In a nutshell, the book is about this and that, and a quick description. It also says very dark. Now, this sort of expression isn't to mean there's no light, but if we say something like a film or a book is dark, it kind of means that it can be quite sinister. It can be often scary, and definitely something that isn't really for young children. Here we have a really sort of topic-specific phrase, put it down. So put the book down. I really couldn't put the book down. It basically means I couldn't stop reading it. And another topic-specific piece of vocabulary, page turner. So if you describe a book as being a page turner, that means that it's really exciting to read and you want to keep reading it. Here we have working my way through. So we can use this for books or we can use it for tasks and activities as well. I was working my way through some admin documents or working my way through a series of books, which is the example here. Bedtime reading is a phrase that we use for a book that we read before bed. A close friend is quite self-explanatory, a friend who we spend a lot of time with. This noun here, this noun or phrase, which is big reader. If you say someone isn't a big reader, it's not actually about size, it's about how often they read. So if someone is a real big reader, it means they read a lot. Highly recommended. Often books do come highly recommended from people, so a collocation here. Picked up another book. So we can often use this verb to describe buying books or reading. So I haven't picked up a book in a while, which means I haven't read for a long time. And finally, we have this phrase, flick through. It means to read quickly without too much emphasis on reading for detail. Often this could be with a newspaper. So I was flicking through the newspaper. Flick through. Okay, so that really is, there's quite a lot of really sort of topic-specific vocabulary and great language for books here. Have a go at using these expressions yourself, write them down and practice using them in your own sentences. See you in the next lesson.